Figure it out.
Hey everybody, my name is Adam Koralik. To all my fans, this is a response video to a user named MN12Bird. He made a video regarding people's PC setups and said everybody go out and make some response videos, and I decided I want to do that. To all his fans, well, you obviously know what this is because you clicked on the response video, so there's no explanation needed. But to your fans, Jake, the guy's name is Jake, and to people obviously watching, in general, I try to make a lot of videos that are obviously for entertainment purposes, but one of the series I do that's more popular is something called, it's called Keep Dreaming, which is all about the Sega Dreamcast, and I just go through a ton of like hardware and stuff, so if you have any interest, go ahead and go check that out. If not, that's fine. I do other stuff. You can check that out as well. I'm also announcing, by the way, that my website is live. www.figureitoutproductions.com, or alternatively www.adamkoralik.com. I'll put links in the description, or a link because they go to the same place. This is just a laptop, obviously. It is a beast of a laptop. It's an HP HDX 18, and it is massive. It's massive. Like this is huge for a laptop. In fact, I keep it on a chair because I sit in this thing, and I sit in another chair, and I'm just like, okay, well, I'm gonna be lazy as possible, and this is going to be my table, and it comes off the chair, not because there's not enough space, but because the vent is underneath, and if it gets too hot, it will like burn out and stop working, and that would be horrible. Yeah, I think it's got like a 250 gigabyte hard drive, and I want to say 4 gigs of RAM. You know, I'm not really particularly good with the actual hardware specs of any of my computers, and you'll see that as you watch other parts of this when I explain the other computers. But yeah, this is the computer I use primarily just for like you know, email and web browsing and watching videos on YouTube and all that kind of stuff. I really don't use it for much else. So yeah, let's move on to the next computer. Story behind this one down here is that I used this computer when I was in high school. I got it in around like 2001, and at the time it was incredibly powerful, and as you would imagine, it would not be as powerful now. One thing that was really cool about this case is that it has, okay, that's not supposed to open that way, that you could do that if you wanted to, and if I didn't have to use just one hand, alright, okay, there's, yeah, inside, it has a door and it can lock. It has a lock down there. The only reason I really wanted a lock is because when I was growing up, well, like, you know, from like 96 to maybe like 2000, we had like the standard kind of crappy Dell, and my sister, who I do not like and I think is a moron, would constantly just be like, oh, this is how you reboot the computer, right? You just push the button. Yeah, she kind of sounds like that. So I was like, wow, you're an idiot. Don't do that. And so when I got my own computer, I just made sure to have like a lock on it so she couldn't do that, because she was the kind of moron who would just, and kind of a jerk, who would just like run up to your room and be like, I'm gonna reboot your computer. She's only a year younger than me. That's pathetic, isn't it? That she would be that evil. Anyway, so this computer has ports up here, and obviously stuff on the back. I am not going to open it up and show you the insides just because it's wedged in here pretty well, and I really don't want to do that. But eventually I brought this computer down to my apartment where I am now, because I had a computer here, because I bought that, and I said, well, I don't really need this one, I'll leave this one, you know, out in the suburbs. And then when I decided to bring it here, I was like, okay, well, why not have a slave computer that I can just have do menial tasks of any kind of nature? And then eventually its motherboard blew out, and I was like, well, that really sucks, I need to get all new parts. So the irony here is this is now my most powerful computer. It has like 8 gigs of RAM, and it's now running Windows 7. And yeah, it runs incredibly well. It's the only one of my computer. No, that's not true. It has a Blu-ray player. I was gonna say it's the only one that does, but that's not true. Yeah, so that's that computer. I'll go into this in a little bit from a different room. It'll make sense in a moment. But right now, you can see this room in general. Hey, look, it's the Diver's Dreamcast. This whole, you know, like there's a monitor, there's speakers, and you think, it's set up to that. No, it's not. It's actually set up with this Mac, which is running Leopard, and it is used for editing. This is what all the real videos are edited on. So this video was not edited on this. Ironic, I know. Oh look, and then there's an editor, and he's not happy because he's not using his computer, and we're wasting time, in his opinion. But anyway, yes, so this Mac is hooked up to this setup. Actually, I did dual configure this, that both this Mac and this computer can be hooked up to this, but the Mac stays on it primarily, and I'll show you why. The computer you just saw is actually hooked up to this TV. Give it a moment, and you are embarrassing me. There we go. Okay, so now it's on display. The computer in that room I have rigged up to this TV, and then if I want to, I can use a keyboard and mouse out here to control it. I have another method of that I'll go into in a little bit. The way I got this to work, because I can't be too familiar with the layout of my apartment, of course, but you've seen this from time to time in some videos, I'm sure. And the way this works, because you can see there's a wall behind it, and then there's this room, and I'll just briefly take you into the room, and we go in here, and then we come inside, and there is the computer you saw a moment ago. So the way it works is that computer has HDMI out, and then what I did down here is I drilled a hole, which you probably can't really see, but I'm pointing to it at the remote to the best of my ability. But back there there's a hole, and there's a bunch of cables that feed through there. One of which is the HDMI cable, another one is a network switch. I'll go into my network in a little bit. Yeah, that's 2 Dreamcast dev kits. And a Panasonic Q, right on. This one is kind of the master of my network, which I'll go into in a little bit. I've got a UVerse connection, and it feeds directly into there, and then, well, I mean, it can be configured from anywhere, but originally it had to be configured from here. So now, this computer does not have a whole lot of a purpose, but it's still nice to have if I ever needed to do older things, because it's got, you know, that old printer kind of serial port, and it's got an SCSI port, which I own a lot of Dreamcast development stuff, not that I really use it, but if I wanted to, this is the only computer I could connect it to. Yeah, so what I would actually do back in the day, you know, oh look, Mountain Dew game fuel, and Solid Snake figure, and Space Jam poster. But yeah, anyway, back in the day what I would do is I would sit here, and I'd be like, la-di-da-di-da, I'm typing and doing internet crap, and I could watch TV there, because that TV actually tilts, and then I could watch from here, and it'd be awesome. I don't really do that much anymore. Not a whole lot of a need for it. But we shall now move on. I also have this computer, just, oh look, a Maddox poster. Do you know who Maddox is? Maddox is awesome. Anyway, so there's this other computer here that is the oldest one I have, and this was my sister's computer, and Michael Jordan. I like Michael Jordan because I'm in Chicago, and if you don't like Michael Jordan, you have problems. But anyway, so yeah, this computer was my sister's, and at one time was the most powerful computer in our house. And there's a contest between myself and my mom going on right now, where I took this computer out of our house 5 years ago. 5 years ago, my mom and I wanted to see how long it would take before my sister would notice that it's gone. She hasn't noticed yet, because she's stupid. This is her computer. She has not noticed in 5 years that it's not there. She just uses like the main family computer. This was in her room, and she doesn't realize it's gone. Anyway, so once I got it, you know, I decided to kind of upgrade it as best I could. Because, you know, occasionally I would get new parts from things. Like when that other computer died, there were some parts I could put in here that were like, you know, in that case were like 10 years old, but were like, you know, an upgrade. I mean, not literally 10 years old, but like there were just parts in it that were an upgrade. So this thing actually went from 512 megabytes of RAM to 1.5 gigabytes. I know, nothing special, but it runs better on that. And yeah, it serves its purpose, which I will explain shortly. And to Jake, you know, you're obviously listening to this for some reason. I mean, you wanted us to do these, so I also thought I would show you this. Recognize it? You have one of these. Now the difference between ours, or mine doesn't say IBM under it. It says something else. I really don't want to tear that off because it's got this shortcut list for WordPerfect for DOS, a program I've never heard of. But like yours, mine does this. Makes an awesome clicking noise. And if you, I'm assuming the people who watch this as a response video know what this is. My fan base, if you're watching this, the guy I made a response video for has this exact same keyboard. And it's just funny because I'm sure he didn't expect anyone else to have the same keyboard. Obviously I only use it on this older computer just because I feel like it makes sense for it to be connected there. And I love how it just doesn't have a start key. That's hilarious. Yeah, that's these two computers. And so now we're back at my laptop again. Now inevitably you're always going like, guy, you know, what do you need all those computers for? That doesn't, you know, that doesn't seem like it would have any real practical purpose. But it does. That computer right here, okay, the one that I pointed out before, I can control that very easily via remote desktop. So that's kind of cool. Now this computer, I mentioned at the beginning of the video, but then when I was kind of explaining the computer itself, I was a little vague on it. It's a data storage computer. Like, I've got so many hard drives attached to that thing, it's ridiculous. And all my computers are linked to each other, so I can share data across it. Like, I can have this thing go ahead and send data to that computer, or have them all send data to each other. So I use that one for storing things like, you know, movies and music, etc., etc. But, you know, remote desktop does have its disadvantages, because what if I want to do something on there? Alright, well, that's no big deal. I'll just go ahead and close remote desktop, and then I'll open up VNC. It's a great program called VNC, and activate that, and now I can see my screen here, and I will put in my password, and then I will be, you know, using this computer in both places, so I can control it. Telling me something about the video card. It always gives me this error message, which is irrelevant. But yeah, then I can control that computer in that room from this computer. Again, you're like, okay, well that's cool, but still it doesn't explain the other two. Well, I can also go ahead and do the same thing with the other computers. See, there again is Michael Jordan, as we saw earlier. That's a really old computer that's still using remote desktop. And then finally, sorry, I just accidentally opened uTorrent. That is so stupid and pointless that I did that. But whatever. Yes, I like to torrent stuff. And then we have this last computer, which you saw there for a second was my hot girl screensaver, because hot girls are hot, and that's awesome. But yeah, there's my last computer there with Batman and Superman, which you saw earlier. Again, still you're going, Adam, you know, that is cool. That is cool that you networked all that. It still doesn't serve a purpose. Hey, look, a ball. But I will tell you the real purpose behind all of this. I mean, that's good. I can share data across these computers and everything, and I can control all of them from here. Again, totally sweet. But what's the purpose? And like Jake, MN12Bird, decided to make a somewhat of a network to control his video capturing, I did something very similar. Independently, I did not get the idea from him. But yeah, every single one of these devices can be connected to my Aver HD USB DVR. Say that 4 times fast. Anyway, so yeah, they're all connected to this thing, and then what will happen is they'll go through my USB network, which is, you might have seen this wire. This cable, this is 2 cables that feeds. One is a USB network that goes both ways, and the other one is a broadband network, which the broadband network very quickly will come out from that UVerse area, feed into this, and that will fuel all these things, and will also go into that back room to feed this computer and the Mac and anything else you want to connect in there. Networking is truly my skill, not hardware, so I apologize for the lack of hardware review in this. But yeah, also it'll come out here, the USB network, and it'll attach to this computer, and then this computer will capture the footage that's running off those systems. And then once it's done capturing, it'll send it to this computer, and this computer will process the footage and convert it. We'll scan it to make sure it's okay and everything. We'll convert it to a more usable format, because that thing does not give the greatest formats. Then it will send it through this network again, this time not through the USB network, but through the broadband network, into the back room to this computer, which is the most powerful of them all. And then this will convert them into something, like if I want to make DVDs out of it or something, or whatever I want to do with it, or if I want to upload it, and of course if I want to store it. And I do it all from this computer. On top of that, the USB network has additional benefits, because if I just like unplug and plug something else in, all the devices can be hooked up to the Xbox 360 or a PS3, or, you know, kind of anything that uses USB ports around here. So, like I said, I apologize for the lack of hardware review. I also apologize for the really shoddy camera work. This is usually I'm on a tripod, like at the beginning, but it was just not really practical for this purpose. But you know, thanks again, Jake, for having us make this video, and I hope everybody out there enjoys it. And if you like to see hardware reviews, like currently I said I'm doing Dreamcast reviews. I also make a lot of other videos about just entertainment-like stuff. But I am planning on eventually doing hardware reviews on different consoles, and of course game reviews. I have not shown it yet. I will, but I have a complete Dreamcast game collection. Yeah, I'm planning to show that at some point, and it'll be awesome. But anyway, thanks again everybody for watching, and hope you enjoyed it.